Yes.
And that is the process of taking a chance. It's a risk.
Yes.
And feel very positive.
And when he takes that positive risk, what are the values associated with that? The values that are associated with that is, in spite of where I am, I can do something that's greater than any other place that I've been. So we'll come back to more of that in just a bit. People want significance. Your sole contribution is the sum of the things is yourself. So your sole contribution to the sum of things is yourself. We all have, okay, so this is the thing I think is really exciting and it really gets my brain going. I took a biology class. And in the biology class, we talked about human reproduction. One of the things that I thought was very interesting about human reproduction is that anything that comes into the body itself tries to kill it, right? Because anything that comes into the body the body creates antibodies. And so when in studying this human reproduction, it became very fascinating that all of our brothers and sisters that entered the body to try and become who we are, only one and sometimes two of us made it through the whole process. That's a miracle, right? So each one of us are miracles. And each one of us, through the miracle of birth, and you've heard people say that, the miracle of birth, because it has a purpose. And so part of significance is understanding and recognizing what people's purposes are. Bad parents tell kids what they're going to be. They tell kids what they're going to do. Good parents call out of kids what's already in them. And so if you want to be a good mentor, a good coach, a good friend of young people, it is our job to look inside of them and call out what's inside of them. All right? And so instead of telling kids what to do, I use the Socratic method. And a kid asks me a question, how do I respond to that question? With another question, because the answer that they're looking for has to be derived from them. Now, I will provide information, but I don't give kids quote-unquote answers. All right? So my job is to provide information and to pull out of them what's already in them. Since the belonging, the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. If I don't love me, can I expect that you will? No. And it's funny, we were talking just before we started. Oftentimes you'll have kids who'll say, I don't trust nobody. Why don't they trust anybody? Because A, they don't trust themselves. And B, it's a lie. They do trust people. When you pull up to McDonald's, you talk to a box. When you get to the window, you pick up your package. In between talking to the box and ingesting your Big Mac, you have trusted a lot of people. So when we encounter kids who say things like that, it's a sign that there's a bad attitude connected to that, which means we have to help get them what they want. But the other part is we have to spit in their soup. As adults, part of our job is to create these individuals who become critical thinkers. And when I say spit in their soup, what I'm actually referring to is cause cognitive dissonance for them. If someone spits in your soup, you have to do what before you decide to eat that soup? Are you not going to think about it? You're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to eat this soup, right? But if they said, this soup will heal everything that ails you, what would you say? I'm going to eat Yes. Right? And so we have to get kids to love themselves so that they can love others. All right? There's a lot of stuff. So here's my favorite piece to this presentation. And I call this the Guerrilla Effect. I call this the Guerrilla Effect. And so here we have this 500-pound gorilla. And this gorilla lives in the forest. Right? What is lacking in the forest that we have in modern society? There's a lot of stuff, right? Just name one. Technology. What else? Cars. Right? Yeah, I can see gorillas. Right? One of the things that's really interesting and fascinating is that there are no hospitals in the forest. Right? No hospitals in the forest. So I was watching Animal Planet, which is one of my favorite channels. And so they were following this family, this group of gorillas, right? So they're kind of hanging out doing their gorilla thing. And then all of a sudden, there comes another adult male into their territory. And so the alpha gorilla has to do something, right? So we already said that there are no what in the jungle? No hospitals. So the adult gorilla whose home territory it is, he gets over there and he grabs the grass and he goes, right? So he's throwing up grass. And so the other gorilla is also looking at him and he's like, argh. And so the gorilla is throwing up grass and then he starts snarling with his teeth. Right? And so they're throwing up grass, he's snarling with his teeth, and the other gorilla is just standing there and he's doing the same thing, and then finally the other gorilla, and he's all the stuff the gorilla is doing, right? Why is he doing all that?
He feels threatened.
He feels threatened? He's proven a point before they got into a fight. What he's saying is, stay away because I don't want to fight. That's what he's saying. So he's throwing up all of this dust, he's creating all of this mayhem to scare off the other gorilla. Because if he scares off the other gorilla, then they don't have to fight. Have you ever been in and this is so funny, how many people have been a classroom teacher or worked in schools? Right? Okay. Never fails, right? So you have two kids who have a conflict. They're very far away from each other when this conflict starts. And then you got one kid who's yelling, I'm going to get you! And blah, blah, blah. And so, as an adult, and you hear all this, you come out to be helpful. So you walk out there, and then all of a sudden you appear, and they get closer. Right? And then finally, you see that this is like escalating because they get louder the closer they get to each other. You try to step in to do something, and then they just go crazy. And they go, and all this stuff, and grabbing and trying to scratch and all this kind of stuff. But before you got there, they had more than enough time to really tear into each other, right? Why did they wait till you got there? Because they really don't want to fight. They're hoping and waiting for you to rescue them, right? And so when we talk about, great apes do not want to go to the hospital, right? What they want to do is they want you to look at that smoke screen so we don't have to deal with my real behaviors. And so when we see a lot of this attitude and the kids, all that kind of stuff, what are they saying? Stay away from me. I got this buffer. Don't bust my bubble. I've had risks with adults who cared about me. They let me down. I'm not going to do that again. So I got this. So I'm going to keep my coat on. Right? You ever had a kid that did that? They wore a coat no matter what. Right? They're trying to keep that buffer because there's some exposure, risk they took that failed, and they said, I'm not doing that again. So my So I was smart as a kid. Really smart, right? I thought I was smarter than my parents. And so what I would do, I figured out my parents at an early age, right? So, the church-going people and, they believed in not sparing a rod and all that kind of stuff. So I figured them out. And so, I don't know, I was probably about 11. And so my mom said, Andre, take out the trash. Guess what I said? No, I didn't say okay. I said, Mom, I'm doing something. What did she say? Oh, no, you didn't just say something back to me, boy. You better blah, 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 and and all this kind of stuff. And she sent me to my room. And guess what I didn't have to do? Take out the trash. So she said, Andre, you need to do this or that, the other chore. And what would I do? I would get an attitude and I would say something. Because what would she do to what I said? She'd respond to what I said, which meant I would get on punishment and wouldn't have to do what she asked me to do. Now, just think about this. So this goes on for a long time. And then at some point, my parents catch a hold of what's going on. And so I would, my dad was particularly keen to this. And he would say, boy, go do something. And I'd say, Dad, why do I always have to do it? And his response to me would be, boy, that's it right there. And so then I'm dragging the trash, and I'm still flapping my gums. How come Will and Damien can't do this? I always got to be the one to take out the trash. Every time I open my mouth, what am I trying to do to my parents? I'm trying to engage them. I'm trying to hook them. I'm trying to say something that'll get their attention so they'll put me on punishment so I don't have to do what they're asking me to do. And so one of the things as helpers that we have to understand is that we only listen to movement. I'm not going to listen to what kids say because they're always trying to hook me. They're trying to hook me every time they open their mouths. And I have to tell you, kids lie.
Really?
Yes. They lie. So I don't listen to what they say. I listen to what they do. I hear what you say, but I see what you do. I had a number of students that would do something inappropriate, and they knew exactly what to do to, quote unquote, get out of it, which was to do what? What do you do when you get caught doing something? What's that? You apologize. I'm sorry. Really? You're really sorry. So I would say, sorry people change. If I see this behavior again, I know that you weren't sorry, and I know that you don't want to change. So I listen only to movement. All right? So as helpers, that's what we have to move to. Any questions so far? I know I'm hitting you with a lot of different stuff. Is this some stuff you've heard before, or is this out there? Okay. So sometimes I get out there and, in la la land. So I want to talk a little bit about good attitudes and bad attitudes. Good attitudes move us towards our goal, and bad attitudes move us away from our goal. All right? Or those are the side effects of the attitudes in which we're exhibiting. So a good attitude is proactive, moving towards my goal, and a bad attitude is reactive. So I want you to I'm going to try and experiment with you. All right? So I'd like for each of you to find, either 2 people or 3 people. So if you can do that right now. So find 2 or 3 people.